Hello, hello. Welcome to Journal Entries. This week, I sit down with Heather Nelson. Heather is super passionate about connecting. I love connecting with people, although I 99% of the time am doing it behind a screen, texting or DMing people, maybe emailing, but Heather does it in person. She does it via networking events or even just meeting up with people, and she makes it sound fun and doable. She also talks about the importance of doing it, and she even talks about retreats that she hosts. This was a really insightful interview, and I think that you're really going to enjoy it. If you love it, be sure to screenshot it and share it in your stories. I always appreciate seeing you guys listening and seeing where you're tuning in from. Okay, let's dig in. Welcome back to Journal Entries, everybody. Today we have Heather Nelson on the show with us. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. Heather is sitting in California right now for all of my East Coast listeners, especially Northeast, who are sitting in the foggy rain, at least the day that we're recording this. But Heather and I have met through a podcasting community, and Heather is the founder of the Connection Hive, and she's all about the power of connection and connecting with other people and networking. And in fact, right before I pressed record, she made a connection for me. And so I'm excited to dig in today. But before we get into all of the juicy stuff, do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm the co-founder, not even co-founder, founder of the Connection Hive, which is my new consulting business, and we'll dive more into what that is throughout the podcast. But I've been doing that for about a year and a half. I also found with my husband a second company called Set and Strike, where we set up tables and chairs for events. Very basic company, but very much needed here in Sonoma County, California.
Yeah.
I am also a mom of three children, and I also have a bonus daughter. So she is in college and 19 years old in Arizona. And then I also have a 14-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 3.5 really fun, active son. I'm also married. And what else about me? I also am the podcaster, and my show is Life Conversations with a Twist. And I interview women who've gone through hard times. Samantha's been one of my guests. Hard times, unique journeys. I just really wanted to create a space for women to have the ability to tell their stories and inspire and empower others. So that's been, I'm almost at my 4-year mark, which is crazy. What else? I'm also the co-founder of Empower Your Path Retreats, which is a women's retreat that we've been doing here in Sonoma County, and we're about to host our fourth retreat. So lots of going on, which is
Yeah.
all things that I love. But we'll talk more about how I even got to all of this
Yeah.
through all the connections.
One thing I want to throw in there, because you mentioned it to me, and I'm just so curious, you've also been a surrogate.
Yes, I have been a surrogate. I always forget, like I don't know if like some people are interested in that, some people aren't, but yes, I was a surrogate, and my little girl that I gave birth to is 5 years old. She'll be 5 years next week.
Oh,
She
wow.
lives in Florida, and that was a beautiful journey. And I'm actually about to take my second journey.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
This is the first time it's public, so
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
So at the time that we're recording this, it's been 1 year since I got my eggs frozen. Like I think on this day I got my eggs frozen a year ago. So I'm just all in my feels of like, oh my, like the shots and all the things that you go through for that process, and even more as a surrogate, like times 10.
Yes, the process is real. Like just going through the contract and things like that right now,
Mm,
it's starting to feel real, and having those conversations with my husband about things. So, it's really
yeah.
exciting. This will be my fifth pregnancy, and will be my last. But it is such a beautiful experience, beautiful journey, and I'm very, very excited to do it again.
I mean, speaking of connections, I feel like even the whole surrogacy journey is like you're connecting families together. So where did your passion for like networking and connecting, where did that stem from?
It's so interesting that you say that because, well, my first journey was through agency, so there was no connections there.
Mm.
But the journey that I'm about to take was through friends, so people in my network who referred me. So it's literally like everybody's like Heather knows everybody, or she will figure out who needs to know the people. So um, there's probably not an exact moment of where my journey started, but my first job was in a restaurant, like most people, as a hostess, and worked my way up there. And I was there for a while. And in that process, I did sales. And so I think that was kind of like my first dabble into creating relationships and meeting people, and really the power of staying connected with people and asking for referrals, and really utilizing that network for sales. And so I did that for about 11 years and then moved my way into hotels, also doing events and sales. And then my last job, my largest, I would say biggest, probably most important career that I had, was I worked for a rental company here in Sonoma County, and I did business development. And that is all about connections. My job was to go out to meet people, to build relationships with our vendor partners, whether that's an event planner, a caterer, a venue, a winery, anybody who is basically going to use us for their events. That was my job, is to meet them, to build relationships, to again ask for referrals. So that was kind of like probably like my most dive in moment of like, this is truly what I love doing. So I would have to say a lot of that comes from that job. Um, but over the years, it's interesting, even now looking back, of how all of my careers and all of my jobs have all come full circle. I really believe that no matter where you are in your career, whatever you're doing, or whatever you are in life, you never know where that person is going to pop up again, whether that's a friendship, or your kids go to school together, or a possible client. And so I've always just been very aware of those relationships and how they can interconnect later in life, and just building upon it. I'm a very genuine person. I mean, what you see is what you get from me. And I'm a very curious person. And so when I meet people, it's not just about, what do you do? Great. Here's what I do. Buy from me. I really take the time to get to know people, to find out what their needs are, to find out, their where I can come as a support, whether that's with the job that I'm representing, or just me as a person. Like, like we just talked about today, you're like, oh, I need this. And I'm like, well, have you talked to this person? Um, but I don't do it in a way that I'm like, what's in it for me? I just really believe that connecting people to the right people um, is a gift, and I love doing it. And so that's kind of where the Connection Hive evolved, which is my new business now. And that business is I'm still trying to figure out what it is. But primarily what I wanted to do is, how do I be a business development person for other smaller companies and have multiple clients, where I really like learn about their businesses, learn what their goals are, either whether that's in their business or professionally or personally, and being able to build connections from that, or build a plan or a strategy around how they're going to grow their business. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm still dabbling in events, because that's what I've been doing my whole life. I'm trying to really get out of it. But yeah, so that's kind of my journey through my career, as far as like how relationships have developed in my life.
Mm. My mom always used to say, be nice to every kid in high school and middle school, because you never know when you're going to need them or see them when you're older. And that always stuck with me. So it's funny
That's
that,
so funny you say that, because that's what I tell my kids, because one just graduated high school. My daughter's about to go in high school, and my son's about to go into middle school. And I always tell them, like, don't get clicky. Don't find yourself in a circle. I always was friends with everybody. I was friends with the soccer players and the cheerleaders and the football players and the nerds and all everybody, because I just never put myself into a bucket, because I wanted to learn. I wanted to meet as many people as I could. And so I believe in that too. So yes,
yeah.
your mother is right.
Yeah. Aren't moms always right? Now that
We are.
we're moms, for sure, we know that.
We know we're always right.
Yeah. So that's such a cool idea for the Connection Hive. And I can definitely see how that's a need, especially because once you get going in business, there's so many things that you need and things that you realize you need, especially as you start growing. So I'm just curious from your experience and just your like from your experience with clients from the Connection Hive and then also just what you know. What is it that you find people needing, or like what are the connections that you most often find that you're making for your clients?
Great question. I named the Connection Hive because I wanted it to be kind of like a big brand, where I could run I could run my podcast underneath it. I could run my retreats through it because really at the end of the day, it's all about connections, whether that's in your professional or personal life. I think when you become a business owner, like you have this idea, you're like, I want to start a restaurant. And you're like, I'm going to go in, and you learn the things you learn, how to open an account, how do you get funding, how do you staff people. And as a business owner, there's so much that you kind of have to do. And depending on what your strengths are, you're going to lean more into it. What a lot of people I feel miss the boat on in their business is like, how do you grow businesses, but how do you grow your business organically, but through relationships? And so when I come in and work with a client, I go in and I want them to see things that are like outside of their normal, right? And I think it's all about partnerships. And so understanding like what people's businesses do and what their needs are, and then like connecting to them to the right person. So like a restaurant would be, I don't have a restaurant client. Let me think of a winery. I work with a lot of venues who are like, we want to drive business to our venue. And I'm like, of course you're going to be on SEO and you're going to be on your website and you're going to do the things that most people tell you that you need to do. And I'm like, no, you need to get out there and you need to meet the people who are going to drive business to you, which in our area is usually a wedding planner or a referral from like a hotel or, people in our industry. And so it's all really, for me, it's about connecting them to the right people that are going to give them the right business or make the right connections. And because of my experience and years here in Sonoma County, especially in the hospitality industry, I know so many people, and I've seen so many businesses fail. I've seen so many thrive, and so really utilizing my experience and what I've seen others do, and pouring that into them and saying, "What have you tried? This? Have you tried that? Have you?" So every little business is different. Some people are, start a business and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with a bookkeeper. Like, I don't want to do the finances. I don't want to do payroll. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, what about a bookkeeper? Or, and connecting them to their needs. I think that I've built a lot of trust over the years just doing by what I'm doing. And so anytime I refer anybody to anybody, everyone's like, well, if Heather deems it as like they're good.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, like I want to support everybody, but I also vet and make sure that I'm connecting people to the right people that are gonna mesh and that they're gonna work together and they're gonna both thrive together.
Hmm. It's so
Did I answer your
refreshing.
question?
Yes, yes. And it's so refreshing to hear this because, and maybe it's just me, and I feel like I am in this like online bubble where anytime I need something, I Google it or I search Instagram and that's what I see. I see like advice and support and connections all online. And so this year, especially, it's been a huge priority for me to get out of my house more and to make more connections, and it's been difficult, but I think it's just because I literally have not done it. And I've been in an online business for 13 or so years for various purposes. And the whole time it's been online. And so I'm trying to like shift into this. And so I'm curious if you've seen that as well, and if you've been working with people that are online trying to shift, and also if you've noticed any shifts or trends or anything from COVID with like people working from home to now wanting to like connect in person.
That's a great question. Oh man, COVID really just shook things up for my world because not only was I, in charge of like staying connected to my clients, I had to go to networking events. And so whether that was a local association that we were involved in, or, one of our vendor partners was hosting an event. And so, going to that, I did a lot of non-industry stuff. So like more community work. And so I had to, put myself out there. So when COVID happened, it was like, womp, womp, womp. You're like, I'm never going to see anybody again.
Yeah.
It was so weird to have a full calendar. And then there was nothing on it. Literally delete, delete, delete for months out. I
Wow.
think in that world. So to your point, that's where everybody went, right? They went online. And what I do have to say though is there are so many great networking platforms that are connecting people. So I think whether that is industry specific, like that's how you and I met, was through podcasting. Like we have these little niches, and getting into a room with somebody who's doing the same thing that we can kind of collab, or just like getting into a networking group where everyone's doing different things, and how do you guys work together um, to solve problems together. Like you could be working with somebody like in the real estate world, but the way they market and build relationships could be something that you could mirror in your own. And so I still think the online space is a great place, and you find that niche, because sometimes locally you can't find that. So
Mhm.
I definitely still, if you're out there and you're an entrepreneur, stay in those worlds, find those groups, because I think those benefit in a large way. Networking in person is a hard thing. I have to remind myself that not everyone is like me. Not everyone is outgoing like me. Not anyone can go into a room and not know anyone and be okay with it. I'm probably like a 5% of the population that can do that. And so networking can be very scary, right? You go into a space and you don't know anybody, and how do you connect with people? But I want to remind people that it's not about going in a room and being like, okay, I'm going to walk away with a piece of business. Like I'm going in there and I'm going to walk away with a new client, or I'm going to walk away and have a new contract. Go in there like you're making new friends, and I think that people miss the mark of like going into a space like that and finding a new friend, like, asking questions. I'm really big about, I always want people to feel good, because I want my energy to, I want people to want to be around me.
Mhm.
And so like commenting, I'm like, oh my God, that's such a great shirt. Or, oh my gosh, I love those earrings. Like little things like that make it easy to kind of start a conversation. And again, you're not going in there like, hi, I'm Heather from the Connection Hive. Do you need a consultant? Like nobody wants to be sold that way, but people are looking for friends, and they're looking for that connection, and they're looking for those relationships. So I think that we need to change the narrative of what networking is, because again, you go into a space and you make friends and you build trust, and that person might not be your piece of business, but they might know someone that does. And so, really nurturing those relationships can go a long way. And so, I still believe in networking in person. Um, and I think that you have to find the right groups that make you feel good. I mean, you can definitely, I mean, they're all over, right? There's so many different types of places and things you could go to, but finding the one that makes you feel good, the one that not necessarily might not bring you direct business, but might make you grow personally, or put you out of your comfort zone, or even getting into a room with somebody who's doing way bigger things than you are, but like just like learning from them and getting to know them, and utilizing them to help grow. So yeah, did I answer that?
Yes, I mean, you went
I told Samantha, I was like, you're gonna have to like settle me down, because I could just go on for days.
I was gonna say you went above and beyond with that answer. You started going into like the intentions with networking, and I love that because before COVID, I was like a hermit and like did my business online. And I don't know if you saw, did you watch Younger on Netflix? It just
No.
recently came out, so it was just recently listed as like a top 10 show on Netflix, even though it was 2015 to 2021 that it was actually on TV. I was obsessed with it. And it's these two girls that work in publishing, but they're constantly at events and they're constantly like networking and like pitching their book ideas and their publishing companies and all of that. And they do it so well. And in my mind, this whole time, I'm like, they do it so well and so like effortlessly. And in my experience, and I didn't join a networking company, but I started attending the networking events that a specific group hosts. and I went to one of their like day long retreats. And I went with my sister, and on the way up in the car, in the notes app of my phone, I wrote down, "Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm a journal expert who helps this person do this." Cause I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to forget my name. I'm going to forget what I do. And my goal is like, okay, I hope that somebody signs up for this, you know? And I put so much pressure on myself to just, I don't know, like be a business owner, right? And to like walk away ideally with a sale or specific connections. And so I love what you said of like go with the intention of like making some friends and complimenting people, because already that like makes it seem more fun and like something that you want to do versus have to do.
I wrote down a bunch of things because it made me think of something. I actually just went to an event the other day. It was a networking event, and it was like a speed dating type of thing where it was really cool. I actually saved all the material because I was like, this is a great way to network, because sometimes you go into a space and automatically there's clicks. Like you'll see little groups of
Mm,
people, and if
yeah.
you're not in the mix, like it's really hard to get into them, right? So this specific event, they kind of challenged you a little bit, but one of the things that they kind of coached you on is like an elevator pitch. I hate that name so much, right? But then it's like it was like too scripted. It was like, "Hi, my name is Heather. I own the Connection Hive. I help with this." It feels
Mhm.
very sales pitchy. And so as they basically force you to kind of like move, I think you had to talk to five different people in the this was a women's group, a women's networking group. So you had to go and talk to somebody else. And it was interesting how your pitch evolved, right?
Yeah.
Because then it became more natural. But I wrote down, my first word that I wrote down is just be authentic. Like nobody wants to be sold to right away, and you don't want that elevator pitch of like, "Hi, I'm Heather." Da, 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 da. I think going in and just being natural and open to how the conversation is going to go, and just being who you are. People want to work with like who you are authentically, and not somebody who you're trying to be because you're trying to get the sale or make that connection. So I wrote that. And also don't judge. These are some of I actually speak a lot on networking here locally because everyone's like, "Oh, Heather's the best networker." Um, I have lots of tips and tricks behind that. But the other thing is like, don't judge. I always think of this situation. I remember going to networking events back in the day, and I was always wanting to get in the room with somebody in the hospitality industry. And sometimes when I went to business events, they weren't there, and I would always meet realtors. Like for some reason, realtors go and network a lot, which is great.
Mhm.
But I was always like, I don't want to talk to them because they're not going to bring me business. I always had that stigma of like, they're not going to bring me business. Why would I want to waste my time talking to them? But I can't even tell you how many connections you'll make because again, these are like major networkers who go to all these things,
Mm.
how they're going to be able to connect with you. And so I always think you have to be open to whatever that person does, and be open to it. I've gone into especially spaces where I'm like, hey, well, they might not bring me business, but could they be a guest on my podcast? Could they be a guest at my retreat? And so thinking of other ways that I can connect, or I have so many people in my network and they're looking for a realtor, and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I met this really great girl. She was super sweet at this event, and like make that connection. So don't judge people, and be open. I think, I can't even tell you how many events I was going to go to, and you've worked all day and you've been on with clients, and you're like, I got to go be on again for another 2 hours and talk to more people. And then you're like, I don't really want to go. I'm going to have to drive. And I have never been to an event that I did not like be like, wow, if I didn't go, I would have made those connections. And so I think you have to be open. And it's always the events you don't want to go to that always make the biggest impact.
Hmm. I feel like I needed to hear this because I'm the first to bow at the events. If I'm like, yeah, no, I should be home with my son, I find excuses. And I have judged people too, definitely wrong to do, but I've been like, realtors, they don't need, a journal expert or whatever. But I love what you said too. And it's so important, I think, to do what you do, which is the reverse of like, yes, we of course would love to get business from a networking event or just a connection that we make, but always having the mindset of what can I give to another person? Because I feel like that's also when it comes back to you. Do you feel like that's true? Like, do you feel like you get something when you also give?
Always. I'm going to give this example. When I first started my business, a girlfriend reached out to me and she's like, there's this newer venue owner. She is like new to the market. She doesn't know anyone. Would you come and meet her? And I said, absolutely. And I just like fell in love with her property. I fell in love with her. And I'm like, hey, let's do a networking. Let's do like a little happy hour here. I'll invite some of my people who I think need to see the space, some people that you need to meet. And she's like, wait, you're going to do this for free? I'm like, yes, I'm going to do this for free. And it was a lot of work, right? Like to get food and to get wine. And I made cute signs and I invited the people. And I remember at one point I was like, why am I doing this? Right. And
Yeah.
because it's a lot of work and you have to do it for free. And I can't even tell you how many people she has referred to me for business. So it's like you give a little bit and now she refers people to me all the time. I've gotten some really great clients from her. And so sometimes you kind of have to do things that or there's no financial background behind it. There's nothing really in it for you, but in the long term there is. And so she's been my biggest supporter. I adore her. And now she's like thriving, and she even says, she's like, I'll never forget because you just did all this work for me and you didn't even know me. And I'm like, well, that's what I love doing, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, so I think sometimes you have to go in that it's not always just for you.
Hmm. So let's dig into your retreats because I know that you have one coming up, at least at the time of this recording.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like, what do you do on these retreats?
Oh man. Um, I have never been to a retreat. Let's just be really clear. The three retreats that I've put on were the only retreats I've ever been to, but it was something about the space that I've created on my podcast of the women that I've met, and I just see such a need for creating a space for women to grow, whether that's personally, that's professionally, whether they're struggling with healthier lifestyles, whether they're struggling with being a mom or going back to work or career changes or health or their husbands or whatever it is. And so I'm like, how do we create a place for a woman to? We've done two different. We've done two night overnights and we've done two just full day retreats. But like, how do we get women out of their normal environment to just be a little bit of self care and really make an impact? And so we had no idea what we were getting into. But I would have to say, our first retreat, we had 6 overnight guests and we had about, I think, a total of like 15 for our day retreat.
Hmm.
And we had powerful speakers. We kind of have pillars. So we always have like an empowerment speaker. We have someone talking about health and wellness. We have someone talking about financial. We have a spiritual experience, whether that's like a sound bath or a meditation or something that's like grounding. And it's just allowed a space for women to dig things out of their past that aren't serving them, or being inspired by other women's story, or just the connections that they've made. I'm actually on a group text with three of the overnighter attendees from our first retreat, and we are like the bestest friends. We encourage each other, we support each other. If we're having a bad day, we text, and we're always like, "We got this, you got this." And so before you and I started recording, like a lot of my background is all about connecting on like a professional level. But now I'm diving into this like personal level of like, how do we connect women to each other, especially in a space where it's harder to meet people, whether that's your stay at home mom or you give so much to your career and your family that you forget about yourself. And so it's really been this beautiful experience that women have been empowered and they're now out in the world killing it. And
Yeah.
so we're just giving them the space to do that.
That's amazing. And I feel like just having this space to allow women to leave their homes and like leave their responsibilities and leave everything behind, even for a day, but ideally the whole retreat, a couple nights, is like so much more refreshing than they realize. I've only hosted retreats too, I think. Funnily enough. No, I did attend one, but it's just like leaving your day to day life that opens your mind up and your emotions up, and it opens you up just to thinking differently. And then having those supportive, like, sound bath and all of those different, like, resources that you have for them at the retreat, it sounds like so healing. And I bet each woman, like, walks away with something different too.
Mhm. A lot of crying happens,
Mm.
um, something that I never thought I would do. I do have to say this one, I talk about this story a lot. When I first started my podcast, I have people reach out. I'm sure you do too. Like they're like, "Oh, we see you're a podcaster. We would love to connect." Or, "Oh, I see you're in the consulting world. I would love to connect." And I had this lady reach out to me on LinkedIn, and she was like, "Hey, like we're in the similar things. We're in Sonoma County. Like, let's meet up. Let's jump on a call." Anytime somebody reaches out to me and they want to learn more about what I do, I'm here for it because again, I could not know anything about them, but then there's never been an opportunity where I've gotten on a call with someone and we haven't connected, we haven't referred business to each other, they haven't become immediate best friends of mine. I'm open to people wanting to connect, and so she reached out and we got on a call, and this is prior to our retreat. And so we're like, yeah, let's stay connected. And then when we were building out our first retreat, I reached out. I was like, hey, would you want to be a speaker at it? Because she does a lot of like inner child work, and she does a lot of grounding practices. And so she's like, yeah, I'm here for it. And she's one of the ones in my little group of four that we're like the bestest friends. And I'm so
Wow.
thankful for her in my life right now, and I would never have met her if I didn't give her a chance to just get on a call with her. And so I
Right.
think there's so much power behind people who are wanting to connect.
Yeah. And that was all from a LinkedIn message, you said?
A LinkedIn message. She was like, "Hey, let's go." I was like, "Okay." And now we're like BFFs, and she is just a beautiful soul, and she has connected me to so many people. We're both involved in this like women's networking group here, and she's been at every single one of our retreats, and so it's cool.
So, one quick question before we wrap up. A lot of what you do sounds like it is local. How much of what you do is online? Like, and what I mean by that is, like, do you work with people online or make connections online?
Great question. Most of the work I do is here in Sonoma County. My podcast guests have now expanded. I've interviewed people from like Canada and Florida and New York and like all over the place. And so that's what I really love about the podcast, is that it's opening that network. I am in a transition with the Connection Hive. Like I want to make more of an impact. I think that building relationships to build your business is like literally the key to any business success. And so I'm like, how do I get this out into the world? And really, it could be any industry and it could be anywhere in the world. So that I think that's like my next journey is like, how do I get this message out to the world? Whether
Mhm.
that's on a course or doing more speaking engagements. But that's kind of the next steps, is to really like get out of this area, because again, it's all the foundations are the same. How
Mhm.
do you grow your business? I did work recently with a security company, and they brought me in to help build out their client like strategy, and I love that. So I'm here for somebody who's like, I have this business and it's growing. I have all these great clients, but I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how to check in with them. How do I navigate, and how do I build those relationships? And then how do I build out getting more? And so I love being strategic around that as well.
Mhm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, if people want to connect with you or attend a future retreat or find you and stalk you on Instagram, where can they find you and find information about all of that?
I feel like I'm everywhere, but the best place to find me is heathernelson.life, which is my personal Instagram. That's where I post everything. My retreats are on there. My podcast is on there. Any events that I'm going to are on there. Any of my clients I support are on there. I also have an Instagram account for the Connection Hive, which is the period connection period hive, because they have to, we can't just have the basic. You
Yeah.
can find me on LinkedIn under Heather Nelson Tapia, which is my official legal name. And you can go to my website, which is theconnectionhive.co. Co. And that's where you can see my coaching packages and strategy packages and connect with me there too.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. And for listeners, if you enjoyed this episode and enjoyed all of the tips that Heather gave us today, feel free to share this episode and give Heather a follow and tag us while you share the podcast to your Instagram stories. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you again, Heather, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad we connected.
I love that.